Good morning, everybody. It's time for the Monday morning market Pulsewave report with yours truly, the Algo Capitalist, aka the Vulcan, coming to you live from PulseWaveTrading.com, home of the world famous Pulsewave Price Trigger Reports. Hope everyone had a wonderful, fantastic, great weekend. It's always good to have a weekend because on the weekend you get to take time off and relax and pretty much spend it any way you want, kicking back, chilling with the friends and family, children, spouse, watch movies, TV shows, play video games, whatever it is that you're into. That's the time we get to do it, is on the weekend. Well, there's some things I want to talk to you guys about today. As you know, none of this is scripted. I just take it right off the dome, coming straight from the chest, coming straight from the heart. Just things that I notice, things that catch my attention and makes me go, So that's what I like to do. I like to give you my take on what's going on, current events, especially those things that affect the economy and the markets in particular. When I say markets, I mean all markets: stock market, bond market, futures market, forex market, crypto market, mini market, you name it. I'm about those markets. So that's what we talk about here on this channel. If you're new, do me a favor and smash that like button. Do yourself a favor and subscribe, because you never know when I'm going to go live. Sometimes I don't even know when I'm going to go live. I try to stick to a schedule per se, but sometimes life gets in the way and I just can't. So when I have the opportunity to do these lives, I like to get to it. There's a lot going on and there's a lot to talk about, and I'm trying to decide which way do I want to go with this, because some of this stuff is, you can't make some of this stuff up. It's just so bizarre. Well, unless you've been living under a rock or hiding away in your bunker, you should know that the United States, as you know it, is falling away. We're living in such a time as watching the decay and the fall of a giant. You're looking at history in the making. The world's superpower, the most superest of superpowers that ever existed, is falling. And it's corrupting from the inside out. I'm reminded of what Christ said. He says, not what goes into a man that defiles him, but what comes out of him. And that's what's happening right now. There's no one to blame but America itself. Such is what we're experiencing now. Rome, before it fell, at the height, at the zenith of its empire, was faced with a lot of corruption. And in the last live stream, we talked about the most powerful military weapon of all time being infinitely more powerful than a nuclear bomb, and that was the mighty briefcase. The briefcase has the power to corrupt people absolutely, and it doesn't care about your nationality, your age, or your gender. The briefcase has destroyed many lives and caused many people to compromise as to who they are, their personalities, their beliefs, their morals, their code, their ethics. The briefcase is mightier than the sword. And today's age is no different. There's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing that we are experiencing now that other generations before us didn't experience as far as the human experience goes. Yeah, we have technology now that our ancestors did not have, but to be truthful and to be honest, some of our ancestors had access to technology and knowledge that we no longer have in existence today as well. So they could boast and brag about their knowledge that they had that got lost when the Library of Alexandria was burnt to the ground. So, yeah, there are pros and cons, there are likenesses, similarities, differences, but all in all, there's nothing new under the sun. Same trials, tribulations of life that our forefathers had to deal with, we too must now deal with. The one thing that we have on our ancestors is that today, if you're alive today, we are closer to the coming of Christ than they were. Now, fair enough, the apostles thought in their day that Jesus was going to return. And they thought that they were living in the last of the last days. And we're closer than they were. That was 2,000 years ago. Many signs of the times have been appearing and making themselves manifest to us in myriads of ways. There's signs of the times, there's all types of things happening. One of the biggest things I think, excuse me, that points into the direction that we're living now is the spirit of deception that is alive in the world today. And this spirit of deception is quite powerful. I mean, until you step outside of it, of its sphere of influence, that's the only way you'll be able to see it. But while you're on the inside, you can't really see looking out. You have to literally step outside of it to see it for what it really is. Sort of like the Matrix. You don't even realize you're plugged into a matrix until someone unplugs you from the matrix. It's only then that you realize, hey, I've been plugged into a matrix all this time. I thought reality was reality, but in all actuality, actually, technically, it was not reality. It was a false reality, a reality that someone unbeknownst to you decided that that is where you are going to exist in that limited reality. Well, likewise, if we were to compare and contrast that to our present day reality, especially those living in the West, and more specifically the US, the average American citizen is living in the matrix and they're unaware of it. And it's dangerous to try to unplug them from it. And it generally is met with violence when you try to unplug them from it. There was a time where people could come together into the marketplace of ideas and debate topics and could say, this is my worldview, this is what I believe, and not just what I believe, but let me explain to you why I believe what I believe. And the marketplace of ideas was a beautiful and bustling metropolis of ideas. And through some of these exchanges, these various exchanges, we were blessed with technology and discoveries. There have been discoveries in healthcare, discoveries in all types of scientific applications, and we've made some really great advancements, and we've made life a little bit more bearable and easier. We've even made work easier through innovation. But we no longer live in a marketplace of ideas. And one of the reasons for that change is that our overlords have decided that information and ideas can be dangerous. They don't want you getting the wrong ideas. But who's to say what is a right and what is a wrong idea? We live now in a culture that hates for you to question their authority. If you question authority or question anything that goes against the narrative that the authorities give you, then you are labeled a problem. They can call you a terrorist. They can call you a right-wing Bible-thumping idiot. They have a lot of names: conspiracy theorists, tinfoil hat wearing. They may say that you're a rebel rouser and that you are inciting a riot. All types of things. They say that your speech hurts people. Your words hurt people. You're not allowed to speak certain words, even though they're part of the daily modern day lexicon. You're not able to use them. You have to now get people's permission before you can even engage them in conversation. And then they have to give you a list of their trigger words that you must avoid in conversation, because they are victims of MK Ultra mind control. So you got to be careful that you don't set them off with a triggering phrase or word. For some people, it could be a color. For others, it could be a day of the week or a month or a year. It could be anything. And if you say it, then you've triggered them, you set them off. Because what you probably failed to realize is that we have tens of millions of people in the United States on some type of mind-altering pharmaceutical. People take medications for depression and other psychiatric mental conditions. So you don't know if a person is going to be set off by your words. Just by simply walking by someone on the street and saying hello or good morning can lead to an altercation. And in some jurisdictions, maybe even your arrest. So now the basic etiquettes of conversation has been taken away from you. You don't even realize that your overlords have made it so that you can't even communicate with each other. They're not concerned about a riot. They're not concerned about an uprising or even civil disobedience, because people cannot come together. They can't gather. They can't come together because they can't even hold a conversation. At first, we were divided by languages. Now we're divided by language itself. It doesn't matter that the person that I'm speaking with or attempting to engage in conversation speaks a foreign language from me. That's no longer my issue. My issue now is, can we even communicate at all? Even if we both speak the same language, can we communicate? Chances are you can't. Just look at some of the everyday norms that have been turned upside down on their heads, such as dating. If a young man finds a young woman attractive or interesting and he wants to get to know her, wants to ask her out on a date, to dinner or coffee or whatever, he runs the risk of arrest in some jurisdictions. Because now the fact that just because he approached her and said good morning or hello, my name is Robert, now she may be triggered because you approached her and attempted to talk to her. Now she's calling the police and saying that you attempted to rape her. I know it sounds extreme and ridiculous, especially if we were saying this 50 years ago. But now, in today's time and age, It's not a laughing matter. It's a reality. It's become a reality. You can no longer communicate with people without having the potential of a deadly or dangerous altercation, or maybe even losing your freedom over it. All you did was say hello and introduce yourself. But what you didn't know was that the person that you introduced yourself to, that you found interesting or attractive, is on some type of psychotropic drug or has some type of personality disorder. And because you said whatever word it was you used in your vocabulary, you have now triggered this individual. And by triggering this individual, every so-called negative aspect of this person's life comes flooding back to the forefront. And now you are guilty of victimizing this individual. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, communication has been taken over. The powers that be have even taken your communication and speech away from you. You thought it was just about free speech. No, no, no. They don't want you communicating with each other, period. They had to take away all social norms, and they've done it. And they've done it so perfectly, flawlessly. That's the world we live in now. As a matter of fact, everything that you see around you is now artificial. You don't even know who it is you're engaging with in conversation. Did you know that? You know, when you met someone and you went out on a date, if you were really trying to get to know the person, I mean, really trying to get to know them, you really want to, befriend someone, the standard questions that are asked. Now, with men, when men meet, first thing a man asks another man is, hey, so what do you do? They're talking about vocation. Because for men, that's just a thing. And with men, everything is about job. They're tied to their job. So you're not you don't drive the metro bus. You say, I am a public transportation specialist. you know, that's what that is. Or if you flip burgers at McDonald's, you say, I am a connoisseur of beef products and culinary arts of preparing beef. You know what I'm saying? That's just how it is. And that's a thing, and it's always been a thing. I'm sure ladies have certain things that, come off when they meet. First, oh, I like your purse, or I like your shoes. That's how their conversation starts. Hey, where'd you get that dress? That kind of thing, whatever. But it's gotten even trickier now because you don't know who you're engaging. Now, when you go out on a date, one of the first questions you have to ask someone is, okay, so were you born a male or female? Because you don't know who you are talking to. If you're a heterosexual male and you think you're engaging a female, it may not be an ontological female. So you have to now ask, were you born male or female? Because if you're a heterosexual male, you don't want to make the mistake of engaging someone who was not born a female. You're looking for a female, not someone that was not born a female. It's like vice versa for women. A heterosexual woman looking for a nice young man. She's engaged in a conversation with a young man, but unbeknownst to her, it may not be a young man. It may be a young woman who altered herself to become in the image of a male. And that's the other thing. Now we have to debate and talk about what is a male and what is a female. And then we had to also define marriage. What is marriage? And then we had to go further and say, what is family? Now, in our age, human beings pride themselves on science. But science does not necessarily mean science anymore. When a person appeals to science, they may be appealing to scientism, which is not science. We're not talking about scientific theories and thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. We're not talking about any of that stuff. We're talking about a religion. The religion of scientism is different than scientific method. You're no longer allowed to use scientific method. Either you are a convert to the religion of scientism, or the culture wants nothing to do with you. And that is where we are right now. Okay? And you're not allowed to speak facts and truth. You're only allowed the wokeness speak of what is acceptable rhetoric in the culture. Doesn't matter. Now, I'm getting older, and my kids and my wife laugh at me all the time for this because I mix things sometimes. And if you catch me doing that, feel free to laugh because it is kind of funny. But I'll say something, but I'm mixing my movies or mixing my metaphors or what have you. So just bear with me. But this reminds me of a show, and I don't know if it was Dragon Tales, which is one of my favorite cartoons. I know. Go ahead and laugh. Or if it was a remember Schoolhouse Rock and the after school specials back in the day for those old enough to remember that? I don't know if it was one of those shows, but there was something Herman and the Nine Fingers and the Ring of Doom, something like that. And one of the scenes was he was walking on a path or something, and he stepped on the grass and stuff, and all of a sudden all you heard was ouch and help, help. Police, we're being accosted. And the authorities show up and like, what's going on here? And the grass says, this person stepped on this beautiful flowers. And they were like, beautiful flowers? He was like, you're grass. No, we're not. We're beautiful flowers. See, I'm a daisy. Well, I'm a rose. Well, and they went on down the line, all the different blades of grass, saying what kind of flower they were, and they're not flowers, they were grass. And of course, he was arrested for doing so, because it was like, how dare you trample these beautiful flowers? It didn't matter that the grass was really grass and not flowers. What mattered was what the talking points were and what the narrative is, which is grass are flowers too in this world. And you stepped and trampled on them, and so we have to throw you in jail. So that's the world we live in right now. It doesn't matter that a blade of grass is not a rose. How dare you call that blade of grass a blade of grass? You must be a racist bigot, because you're not acknowledging the fact that that blade of grass identifies itself as a rose, a beautiful red rose. And the other blade of grass next to it identifies as a white rose, and so on and so forth. And then the ones next to those say that they're beautiful tulips. And it goes on down the list. So how dare you? How dare you? That's the world we live in now. Facts and actual science doesn't matter. What the authorities say it is matters. Sort of like, the medieval king who doesn't have a law. There's no written law anywhere. The law is whatever the king says it is. And he can change his mind and on a whim. Right now, it's against the law to step on the grass around the castle. 5 minutes from now, it may be okay. And then it may go back to you can't step on the grass anymore. And then tomorrow you can step on the grass again. The people are confused. They don't know. Can you step on the grass or can't you? So most people just avoid the grass altogether because they don't know if it's going to be legal today or maybe not legal, because it's so arbitrary what the rules are. And when you muddle the waters like this and make the rules of engagement impossible, well, the only logical conclusion is people stop engaging altogether. And that is where we are. That is the world that we have found ourselves in. We have woken up to this. But it has consequences. There's always unintended consequences. I like how Thomas Sowell puts it. He was like, we don't always have answers, but it's just an either or thing. Would you or a would you rather? You're just trying to decide, well, what is more tolerable. Would you rather? Would you rather this or would you rather that? Because there really isn't an answer for a lot of different things. It's just a would you rather? And we live in that world, and that's where we are right now. So it's very interesting just how systematically the American citizen has been enslaved and had their freedoms and rights and liberties taken from them without them even realizing it. They think they're free and have more liberty, rights, and freedoms than any other country on earth, and that's just not true. It's not a fact. Not a fact at all. It seems that everything here in the West is built upon deceit, deception, lies. And we're going to get into some of these lies this morning. But first, let's just take a look at, let's get out the way some of this basic market news. Then we're going to get into just how deceived you are. We're going to take a test, the deception test, to see if you're aware of how deceived the powers that be have you. JP Morgan Asset Management's chief strategist sees upside ahead following Wednesday's inflation reading. The dip, according to David Kelly, suggests high prices are starting to roll over. Quote, I would be fully invested in equities at this point because I do think that equities can move higher here, he told Bloomberg on Friday. Kelly expects to see another positive CPI report for August, with inflation showing improvement beyond what official data may suggest. Next month, Kelly anticipates a 50 basis point rate hike from the Fed and a 25 basis point hike in November. But given that the Fed has a stomach frequent criticism for being behind the curve on inflation, Kelly said policymakers have remained wary about celebrating any fresh data, which means sentiment could stay weak. The problem is the Fed has been on a diet of humble pie all year, he said, and that's what's causing them to be cautious in declaring any progress here. Well, I have to tell you, folks, I don't think they know what they're doing. Because like I told you before, it's either the Fed is incompetent or they're evil. Which one is it? Because if they're evil, then obviously all this is being done on purpose. How could it not be? But if they're incompetent, why are they still in power? Why are they still in office? Why haven't they been fired? You don't get to have it both ways. So again, either they are incompetent or they're doing this on purpose. Which is it? Which is it? That's what I want to know. U.S. stock futures fall early Monday. Meanwhile, oil also slipped after economic data showed China's economy is slowing more quickly than expected. So that's their reason and rationale for crude oil prices being so gangster and continuing to fall almost every day. On the docket today, we have HelloFresh, Phoenix Group Holdings, and BHP Billiton Limited all reporting today. These recession busting people don't know what they are doing. But hey, who am I to judge, right? But the recession busting stocks collectively crushed the S&P 500 by 41% in 2008 and 2009, and there's a good chance they could repeat that performance this time around, even in a downturn. There's a lot of money to be made if you pick the right meme stocks. Russia's wealth fund could add China's yuan and other currencies besides the dollar and euro. With Western sanctions freezing much of the Kremlin's assets, turning to the yuan in addition to Indian rupees and Turkish lira can help create a more diversified portfolio. Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway has plowed over $25 billion into Chevron and Occidental Petroleum this year. The legendary investor may be scooping up shares in order to benefit from rising oil prices and soaring inflation, according to one energy stock specialist. So what that means, ladies and gentlemen, is that even though the prices have been falling, he's been using that opportunity to snatch up the stocks on the cheap because he knows that crude oil is about to explode. And I cannot say that I blame him. Saudi Aramco posted a 90% jump in quarterly profit. Saudi Arabia's national oil company said its net income amounted to $48.4 billion in the second quarter of 2022, nearly as much as the five biggest Western energy majors combined. You don't say. Remember we talked about those lies? Ethereum has rallied in a big way over the last month, soaring over 80%, even amid the broader crypto winter. But some traders expect the token's rally to fizzle out as the upcoming proof-of-stake system will mark a sell the news event, or so they hope. Hope can also be quite the dangerous thing, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, indeedy. Now we're going to get into some of the lies. In America, up means down, down means up. Happy means sad, and sad means happy. What is the average person to do? Well, if you believe the talking heads in the mainstream media, then you would believe that when they say that this is the great walkout or the great resignation, that no one wants to work and they're just walking away from their jobs, then that means you score a level 10 on the deception meter. You have been deceived completely and utterly on that particular topic. You see, what they're not saying is that companies have been laying off droves of people. And this fall, there are going to be droves more to be laid off, a massive amount of people. A massive amount of layoffs are coming, and bankruptcies are coming in the fall of 2022. It's not people walking off the job and just quitting. No, it's that people are being laid off and they spin it and says, no, people are quitting. But it's more than that. It's not that just people are being laid off. Now, here's the thing. Corporations have become very slick and very calculating in what they do. So here's another scenario for you. True, some people have actually quit their jobs and walked off the job. But that's not the end of the story. What you don't know is that some of them had to quit their jobs or walk off the job because they couldn't afford to work anymore. There's something you don't hear every day. What do you mean they couldn't afford to work? Well, with gas prices hitting $5 a gallon, if a person has to commute X amount of distance to work every day, it's costing them more in gas to get to work than what their paycheck is. So if a person makes $100 a week after taxes, but it costs them $200 a week to drive to work, it's a no-brainer what has to be done here. They have to quit that job because it's not really a job. The job is literally costing you money. It's not a win-win. It's not a break even. You're losing money because the job isn't paying you enough or giving you enough hours. And it's costing more for you to commute to work than to physically go to work. Which leads us to the next issue. The next issue is that we're facing the possibility of train strikes, train workers going on strike, along with truckers. If we have no trains and no trucks, then nothing gets delivered to the grocery store, ladies and gentlemen. Truckers have been crying for a while because the companies don't want to pay them. They want them to work to death. They're working them to death, but they don't want to pay them, and they can't recuperate the rising cost of fuel. So again, it doesn't make sense if you're spending more in fuel than you're literally getting paid on your paycheck to make these deliveries. That's the problem, folks. And they call it the Great Resignation. It's not the Great Resignation. It's the wrecking of the economy that your government has done, along with the Federal Reserve. They've destroyed the economy so completely, so utterly, that people can't even afford to work. You can't afford to go to work. People want to work but can't afford it because the work doesn't pay. The job doesn't pay enough to keep up with the cost of this hyperinflation. It costs you more in the gas tank than your paycheck. And then once you get your paycheck, because of the hyperinflation, everything has eaten it up. That's the world we're in. That is the truth. See how the lie, when the truth is not explained and exposed, how the lie can just take a shape and a life of its own? Some of you didn't even know this. You weren't even aware of this. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about because I'm talking about you. You've experienced this. And I know it's frustrating. So then you have to ask yourself another question then. Why is Walmart laying off so many workers? Why is that? If brighter days are eventually coming for the U.S. economy, according to The Economist, then why would Walmart be so eager to lay off corporate employees? Not the people at the store, but corporate employees. Of course, the truth is that brighter days are not coming. That's right. Some of the largest companies are laying off workers and about to lay off the largest portion of such workers in the fall. So if things are going so well, according to the White House, we've turned the corner. The economy's strong. The job market's strong. Then why is Walmart feeling compelled to eliminate jobs? What's really going on? When Walmart announced that it would be laying off nearly 200 corporate employees, not 20, not 2, not 10, 200 corporate employees, it made headlines. Walmart will let go of almost 200 corporate employees on Wednesday amid the economic downturn and rising inflation, Oh, so now you're admitting it's an economic downturn with rising inflation? According to a person familiar with the development, the company said in the statement that these layoffs are a part of updating its structure. They love putting some spin on it, making it a little bit more palatable, giving you a little sugar along with the dung. Yeah, they're updating their structure, all right, because they know that really hard times are coming. And the projections that the company recently released confirm this. Walmart said it now anticipates adjusted earnings per share for the second quarter and full year to decline around 8 to 9% and an 11 to 13% respectively. Previously, the retailer had predicted a 1% fall it had previously forecast for the full year. Food inflation is double digits and higher than at the end of the first quarter. This is affecting customers' ability to spend on general merchandise categories and requiring more markdowns to move through the inventory, particularly apparel, Walmart said. And did you know that SoundCloud is also doing layoffs? Approximately 20% of its global workforce is being laid off. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. SoundCloud will be laying off approximately 20% of its global workforce, citing a significant company transformation in the current economic and financial landscape. During this difficult time, we are focused on providing the support and resources to those transitioning while reinforcing our commitment to executing our mission to lead what's next in music, reads a statement by a representative for SoundCloud. They have such a way with words, so eloquent, so poetic. But just like in 2008, the pace of layoffs is beginning to accelerate at a pace that is absolutely breathtaking. Now, if you missed all of this, all you got to do is go to your grocery store and look at the prices. That confirms everything that you're being told. And as more Americans lose their jobs, the number of people filling new claims for unemployment benefits will continue to rise. In fact, the number last week was up to 260,000. The number of Americans filing for unemployment benefits edged higher last week, hovering near the highest level of the year. The latest sign that the historical tight labor market is starting to cool off. Figures released Thursday by the Labor Department show that applications for the week ended July 30th rose to 260,000 from the downwardly revised 254,000 recorded a week earlier. That is above the 2019 pre-pandemic average of 218,000 claims and just narrowly missed topping the 8-month high of 261,000 recorded in mid-July. Ouch. Meanwhile, inflation continues to spiral out of control, and that is causing immense hardships for millions of American families. According to Zero Hedge, the misery index in the United States just hit the highest level since 2011. Although the White House seems to believe that things are pretty okay, the U.S. Misery Index suggests they're not. June's Misery Index, a composite of unemployment and CPI inflation, has risen to 12.5. That's the highest since September of 2011, when the U.S. economy was experiencing a time of very weak job growth and economic growth followed the Great Recession. Now, at that time, the yield curve almost inverted and there were fears of a new recession. June's Misery Index is also above the index from the 2007 to 2009 recession, when the index peaked at 11.4%. Are you understanding this? This means that the 12.5 figure is higher than the peak number between 2007 and 2009. Ouch. But yet they say, oh, there's no recession. We're not in a recession and we're not going into a recession. Really? While so many people are hurting out there right now, many Americans are working as hard as they can, but it still isn't enough to pay the bills because inflation has been absolutely eviscerating their standard of living. As a result, more people are falling out of the middle class and into poverty with each passing day. That's right, there is no more middle class. Everyone is struggling. The lines at the food banks are getting longer and longer, and many of those that are now showing up for assistance were once solidly part of the middle class. The first time Kelly Wilcox drove her 2017 Dodge Grand Caravan to the food pantry near her home in Payson, Utah, she immediately noticed one thing that surprised her: new models of Toyota and Honda sedans and minivans. I saw a bunch of other people with cars like me who had kids in their cars, she said. The mother of 4 young sons didn't know what to expect when she made an early visit to Tabitha's Way local food pantry this spring. She knew that she needed help. Her husband had lost his job. He soon found a new job as an account manager, but that wasn't enough with inflation. Can you identify with Kelly Wilcox? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The United States of America has become the United States of the working poor. That's right. These are facts. This is what's happening. This is a problem. And they don't want to call it a problem. They're finding all types of words in the English language to explain it away. But here's something that you cannot explain away. Did you know that a quarter of the 400 U.S. wars were fought in the Middle East and Africa? Did you know that? Again, we're uncovering lies and deception here today. If you did not know that, then you have been thoroughly deceived. In the first major study of its kind, entitled Introducing the Military Intervention Project, a new data set on U.S. military interventions from 1776 all the way up to 2019. A total of 400 wars were found to have established the military hegemony the U.S. holds today. Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Lebanon, Niger, and Somalia were among the list of U.S. hegemony targets, especially following the post 9/11 era, which amplified U.S. military hostilities and deployment frequencies on hollow pretexts. Remember the joke? Oh, they have to have some weapons of mass destruction in there somewhere, and then he bust out laughing. Remember that one? On top of that, the U.S. has voluntarily aided in training both Ukrainian forces and Israeli security forces, despite the latter's atrocious crimes committed across the region, the latest of which is the aggression on Gaza. The report concluded that more than a quarter of the 400 wars occurred in the post-Cold War period. Although the period brought fewer power conflicts that called for the need to defend vital U.S. interests, however, its military encroachments continued at high rates with higher hostilities. According to the SIPRI, the budget assigned solely for the U.S. military exceeds $100 billion annually. Let me repeat that. The budget assigned solely for the U.S. military exceeds $800 billion annually, almost $1 trillion annually, accounting for almost 40% of global military spending. That while the U.S. has neglected to address its internal pressing issues such as baby formula shortages, fuel crisis, and inflation, but they can spend almost $1 trillion on military. I bet you didn't know any of that. Oh, but it gets better. Yeah. Did you know that the biggest bandit right now in Syria is the U.S.? The U.S. has built quite a reputation with its thievery skills. After Iraq and Afghanistan, its Syrians turned to fall victim to U.S. hegemony that feeds on the wealth of other countries. That's right. How do you think America built its wealth? Not by going into the markets. No, it's by gathering up other countries' natural resources. A Russian intelligence agency confirmed that U.S. companies loot Syrian natural resources, especially oil. Washington continues to participate in the illegal oil trade. 3 million barrels of oil are extracted each month from Hasaka, Raqqa, and Deir Ezzar. Bet you didn't know that. A third of the stolen oil is transported to the Iraqi Kurdistan region. The price of a barrel ranges between $40 and $35. The stolen oil is transported under U.S. protection. U.S. military units and employees of private companies set up a security system to secure infrastructures used for production and processing. That's right. U.S. military units and employees of private companies set up a security system to secure infrastructures used for production and processing. Syria lost more than $100 billion as a result of losing control of the oil fields. Syria is now forced to pay $2 billion annually to purchase oil. Yeah, tisk tisk. I know. It gets dark. It gets really dark. I know. But these are facts. And if you didn't know these facts, you have been thoroughly, thoroughly deceived. I told you. I warned you at the beginning of this live that not many of you will be able to pass your exam, your final exams on deception. You've been thoroughly deceived. Now, what happens when food prices triple and quadruple from what their current levels are? Things are going to get quite nasty, very nasty, really quick. And if you think that people aren't getting crazy now, just wait until the cost of food skyrockets to levels that anyone can even imagine. Most people don't realize this, but a very large degree, we all still eating the food that was grown in 2001. Unfortunately for all of us, far less food is being grown in 2022 than originally projected. And that is going to cause immense global stress in 2023. Again, more deception, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you've been hearing them, beating their drums about climate change and man-made global warming and man-made climate change. Now, this has already been thoroughly debunked, right? But it doesn't matter because there is some truth to it. There is man-made climate change and global warming, just not what you think it is. See, when you hear them say it, they want you to think of pollution, things of that nature, and carbon footprints. It has nothing to do with that. The man-made terraforming of this planet is being done by the global elite that you call government. All the chemtrail sprayings, all the poisons and pesticides that they put in food. That's right. The majority of food processing is filled with chemicals that you need a hazmat suit just to touch or be around. And they put it in your food. Remember when they convinced the general public that putting fluoride in the water was a good thing? You ever seen people work around fluoride? They got to have on a hazmat suit. How is something that toxic and corrosive and deadly and poisonous okay to ingest? If you were to take a thermostat filled with mercury, throw it on the ground, and cause it to break, that would trigger a hazmat event. You would have to call hazmat. They have to come in, shut down like a 1 mile perimeter, and evacuate the people from the building. Because now you have a hazmat situation. But it's okay to put mercury in your body, in your teeth for fillings. As toxic as mercury is, it's okay though. Oh, it's okay. But you need a hazmat suit to handle it, but it's okay to put in your mouth. Then you were also deceived even further. They've told you throughout all these years that dental is totally separate from medical and has nothing to do with medical, not at all. And that your mouth is separated from the rest of your body, that your mouth has nothing to do with any of your other vital organs. That's why dentistry has always been separated and kept separate from medical, especially when it comes to health insurance. There's a medical benefit for your policy, and if you're lucky, then you'll have some form of a watered, stripped down dental benefit. Dental has always been kept separate from medical, and you've been deceived in thinking that dental has nothing to do with medical. That is a lie. As a matter of fact, according to real scientific method, not scientism, the nerve endings in your teeth go to different organs and parts of your body. So someone who may be having certain illnesses in their body, kidney problems, liver problems, pancreatic problems, 9 times out of 10, it's linked back to their teeth. In the mouth, there are 4 quadrants. Each quadrant is connected to some part of your internal organs and can cause diseases and all types of things, which they give you a synthetic medicine for as a band-aid to treat. Why do you think the healthcare system in the United States is not about curing any diseases? It's about getting you to take medications for the rest of your natural life. That's the system. There's no money in cure. There's only money in treatment. So treatment it is. And then to keep the lie going, the pharmaceuticals have taken over all the medical schools, and now they teach you that the human body cannot heal itself and that the human body needs their synthetic pharmaceutical drugs to do the job. And all you can do is make a person comfortable, but you can't cure or heal anything. But 50 years ago, if you were in medical school, you heard that the human body is an amazing tool and it can definitely heal itself. And that actually food in and of itself is medicine, not synthetic drugs. So it is what it is, ladies and gentlemen. You have been thoroughly lied to and deceived about a myriad of things. Ask yourself, what else have you been lied to about? What else? What else? So yes, man-made global warming, man-made climate change. Yeah, because it's being done on purpose and it has nothing to do with pollution or carbon footprints. It has to do with them spraying and terraforming the planet, something they denied for decades. And now all of a sudden, yeah, okay, fine. We've been terraforming the planet, but because we're trying to fight climate change. No, you're not. They're trying to kill off as many people as possible and make people sick as possible. Is their way of culling the herd. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So the soil is damaged. The air you breathe is damaged. And don't even get me started on the tap water that you drink out of your faucet. Damaged. Tap water is responsible for killing more people than car accidents, but you would never know that because of the way they do statistics and hide things. And it's not your doctor's fault. Again, it's the way they were medically trained in medical school, what they were told. It's not their fault. They've been programmed and deceived too. It's just how it is, folks. And again, America's biggest crime is lack of imagination, lack of curiosity. The average American person is not curious enough to look into anything. That takes too much work and energy, and they're not about to do that. And this is why you have the nightmarish droughts that are absolutely devastating crops in the United States and in Europe, thanks to the spraying of the deadly chemicals in the air. What do you think? What did you think was going to happen with radium and cadmium and aluminum being dumped on the citizenry unaware, tearing up the soil? What did you think was going to happen? The major war that is happening on the other side of the globe is greatly restricting the flow of agricultural goods from the Ukraine, and the fact that some fertilizers have now more than quadrupled in price is deeply affecting farmers all over the planet. And again, globe, they lied to you about that too. You don't even know what you live on. You think you're on a ball spinning tens of thousands of miles per hour and hurtling through space. But you never hear about collisions, do you? So we've been hurtling through space at tens of thousands of miles per second, and nothing's crashing. But also, there's no God, though. The Big Bang made all this happen and just magically caused everything to spin like spinning tops and never crash into each other, never collide. Oh, and by the way, you've been lied to about the whole satellite thing too. You think there are like 100,000 satellites, spinning around and traveling at thousands of miles per hour, circling a ball that you live on, and there's never a collision and a crash with those either. How do they keep from crashing into each other? I'm telling you, people better wake up. Better wake up. Better wake up. Better wake up. So, of course, the cost of living has already gotten completely out of control. Of course. Did you know that the median rent in the United States has now surpassed $2,000 a month for the first time ever? The cost of rent in the U.S. is moving higher at the highest pace in 3 decades. That's 30 years. Blowing past a median of $2,000 per month for the first time ever. Rents are now above where they were prior to the pandemic in most major cities. Areas just outside cities, which saw a large influx of new renters during the pandemic, have seen their rents rise disproportionately higher. People returning to large cities post-pandemic have also not helped prices cool off. So I ask you, who can afford to pay $2,000 a month on rent alone? According to the Social Security Administration, the median yearly income for the U.S. worker in 2020 was just $34,612.04. That was the median yearly income before taxes. No wonder most families need to have more than one income just to survive these days. You can't work enough dead end minimum wage jobs to make that, to meet that mark. This is what you've been warned about, with the standard of living being systematically destroyed right in front of you. Many people have to work as hard as they possibly can just to pay the bills each month. And most of them can't even do that. Do you know what that does to a person's confidence? To know that they're going out here working 40, 60 plus hours a week and can't even make ends meet? Do you know how defeating that is? You're working all those hours each and every week and you still can't eat. The top 10% are still doing well, but the vast majority of the country is really struggling. And that is why the soaring price of food is such a big deal right now. The latest numbers that are coming in from the government tell us that the cost of food at home has been rising at the fastest rate since 1979. Forget people eating out. People can't afford to eat, period. The food at home index, which represents food purchased in places like grocery stores for consumption at home, jumped by an annual 13.1%, which is the fastest pace since March of 1979. Consumers are getting a break at the gas pump, but not at the grocery store, Bankrate chief financial analyst Greg McBride told the Epoch Times in an emailed statement. Food prices, and especially costs for food at home, continue to soar, rising at the fastest pace in more than 43 years. I'm here to tell you it has gone up at least 100%. That's right. Your trip to the grocery store it's already now up to 100%. If you're used to spending $100 a week at the grocery store, you're spending at least $200 now. Those that do the shopping for their homes know exactly what I'm talking about. You're feeling it every time you step foot in there. You know what time it is. And you know what? We ain't seen nothing yet. What we see at the grocery store right now is largely a reflection of what happened last year. In the last few days, the mainstream media has been buzzing about the fact that there is now a potato shortage in Idaho. A potato shortage in Idaho, the potato state? But what most people don't realize is that this shortage was caused by a tremendous heat wave that happened last summer, which I'm sure was weather modification and more spraying that caused that to happen. So they did it to themselves on purpose. Idaho has a potato shortage. If you haven't heard about it already or noticed fewer and fewer potatoes in your grocery store produce section, you will soon. So what's the problem? Is it the weather? No, it's man's manipulating the weather. Not this year's manipulated weather, mind you. It's the weather from over a year ago that's to blame. Or should we say the individuals who caused that weather? Think about it. A bad harvest in 2021 is now being felt in the later stages of 2022. Looking ahead, what our farmers are experiencing right now will be felt very keenly in 2023. For example, it is being reported that the price of some fertilizers has now more than quadrupled. Last year, fertilizer was around $270 per ton. And now it's over $1,400 per ton, according to Megan Kaiser of Kaiser Family Farms and farmer director of the United Soybean Board told NBC's Nightly News with Lester Holt. It's scary. It turns my stomach a little bit to think about the amount of risk that our family farm is taking right now. End quote. Farmers are finding themselves forced to pass some of those costs along to consumers, resulting in higher grocery store prices. Now, when those cost increases get passed along to the average American in 2023, A lot of people are going to be screaming bloody murder because they're not going to be able to afford to eat. Now, some of you are thinking, yeah, but at least we will have food to eat. On the other side of the world, there simply will not be enough food for everyone. For years, people have been talking about global famines that are inevitably coming. But I don't think it's sinking in for a lot of people. And of course, famine is just one of the elements of the perfect storm that we're now facing. Recently, Egon von Gressler listed some other major elements, such as debt at levels that can never be repaid, sovereign, corporate, and private debt, or at levels that can never be repaid. Epic global bubbles in stocks, bonds, and property, all about to collapse. Major geopolitical conflict with no desire for peace, major wars likely. Did you get that? No desire for peace. Energy imbalances and shortages, most self-inflicted, like I said. Food shortages leading to major famine and civil unrest. And last but not least, inflation leading to hyperinflation and global poverty. People are going to be bugging next year, ladies and gentlemen. We got a giant, colossal mess on our hands. And conditions are going to get worse and worse and worse in the months ahead. As things deteriorate, a lot of people out there are going to go completely nuts. In fact, a lot of people are already completely nuts. An unidentified man reportedly set his car on fire by driving into a U.S. Capitol barricade early Sunday morning. He then got out of his car and began firing a weapon indiscriminately before shooting himself, police say. U.S. Capitol Police say officers immediately responded when they heard the sound of gunfire at roughly 4 a.m. There were no reported injuries aside from the driver. The only reason you would do something like that is if you have lost all hope. And in the months and years ahead, much of the general population will lose all hope. Ladies and gentlemen, no matter how bad things get, suicide is never the answer. Think of your friends and family that you would be hurting when you do that. Suicide is not the answer. No matter how bad things get, you do not want to commit suicide. Don't become so depressed that you develop an Eeyore complex, which leads to that. Please don't do that. One of the ways that you can ensure that you won't be driven to suicide is by taking the necessary precautions now. Do things today that will benefit you tomorrow. Right now, at this time, on this day, make a decision to do whatever you can, because universal basic income is going to be the result of all these layoffs. People are going to be really starving for real because they're not going to be able to afford to eat. People are going to have money. You never heard me say that people won't have money. What I said is that they won't be able to afford anything. What good is it to have money but not enough money, not the right money? If a carton of eggs goes to $20 a carton, what are you going to do? You don't want to be put in a situation where you have to rely on the government to take care of you. You need to build an income stream for yourself. Starting a business today is also extremely difficult. There's so much uncertainty going on right now. And I've always said too, You can have the best little, storefront in your area, but if people can't afford to shop there anymore, then you're going to be affected too. Same thing with real estate. Real estate is about to go pop. The best way I know to generate wealth for yourself is by trading these financial markets. Seriously, learning how not just to buy a share of stock, but how to sell short a share of stock, how to short the stock market, how to short the real estate market, how to get long commodities, how to benefit and get paid as the stock is oil stocks go through the roof. How you can make money in doing these things. Make money if a country's currency collapses. How can you get broke off if that happens? These are questions that need answering that only you can answer. And the only way you can get these answers is by going to pulsewavetrading.com and taking our 14-day free trial. We got a 14-day free trial of our pro membership right now. So take those 14 days and see how much extra money you can make for yourself to stash away so that no matter how hyperinflated prices get, you and your family will still be able to eat. Because at the end of the day, that's exactly what it's going to take. You're going to need to be able to eat. No matter how high the prices go, you have to afford them. You have to be able to eat, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I do this for. So take that 14-day free trial and learn how to generate the money that you are going to need, especially going into next year. It's going to get ugly out there. Hyperinflation hasn't even really begun to start yet. It really hasn't. So you need to insulate yourself. You're going to need money. No matter how expensive things get, you're always going to need that money. So do what you got to do. And that's why I'm going to be making available to all of our Pulsewavers a little something that I put together. And it's called How to Trade Non-Expiry Stock Options and How to Avoid Time Decay on Non-Expiry Options, and how to take advantage of these options that never expire worthless. That's right, you heard me. This is a little known secret, Wall Street secret, and you won't find this in any book, I guarantee you. You can pick up any options book, you will not find this information. So if you want to learn how to take advantage of options that never expire worthless, have no expiration date, and not only that, avoid time decay. That's right. See, the problem with options trading today is that when you buy a call or a put option, 90% of the time before you even put the trade on, it's going to expire worthless. And when it does, you're going to lose all the premium you paid for that option. Now, I know there are a whole bunch of different types of option strategies out there, from the basic to the sophisticated. Everything from bull call spreads to bear put spreads and condors and iron condors and all the alike. Butterfly spreads, you name it. But the problem with those options is a lot of the time, majority of the time, they expire worthless. And then you're out that premium. But with these non-expiry options, there is no expiration. And there's no time decay. That's right. So if you want to learn about that, well, you got to be a member. You got to go to pulsewavetrading.com and take advantage of our 14-day free trial, and that information will be made available to you, as it will be made available to all of our Pulsewavers. I have not put it on the website as of yet. I will be within the next few days. I'm going to be adding that to there so that everyone can be in a position to profit when the time comes, because I'm here to tell you that the next downturn in the market is going to come without warning. There will be no warning. There will be no supernatural indicator telling you that the bear market is back or the stock market is about to drop within the next 5 minutes. Nope, 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 nope. That's why you're going to need these non-expiries. That's right. There is more than one option for you, and you want the one that doesn't expire. All right. So with that being said, smash that like button. And remember, bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. So remember to take what you can and give nothing back. And I'm out. Peace.